As somebody who grew up on Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, these games hold a great deal of nostalgia for me, and are some of my personal favourites. In spite of that, whenever I've looked at these titles through a more critical lens, they always seem to come up short. Beyond introducing Wi-Fi functionality, I always felt like the jump between Generation 3 to 4 was the smallest the series had seen at the time. That's not to say these are bad games, on the contrary actually, they offered the best opening to credits experience of the entire franchise thus far. Everything that the previous generations had done was done better here. Better graphics, a lush soundtrack, an excellent region to explore, and a nice mix of new and returning Pokemon. That already sets this up to be a great game. And with that out of the way, it's time to revisit the Sinnoh region, as I give my thoughts on Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, faithful remakes of Pokemon's 4th generation for Nintendo Switch. Before I do, however, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications every time that I upload, leave a like, and comment any and all suggestions for how to improve my content going forward. Let's get into it. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl followed the standard Pokemon story structure. Small town kid gets given a Pokemon by a professor, battles 8 gym leaders, takes down a terrorist organization, becomes a champion, and catches all the Pokemon. It's boilerplate stuff, but the execution of each component is solid, if a little forgettable this time around. Team Galactic is a big part of this. They're definitely not the worst evil team in Pokemon, but they're nowhere near the best either. Their mission of resetting the world had the potential to be interesting, but the fact that only Cyrus actually knows the details of this mission really hinder any real foreshadowing or a chance to give the grunts and admins any defining personality traits or depth. Whenever you encounter Cyrus, it is a high point, but his presence is kept to a minimum, often to the detriment of fleshing out his character and motives. Your rival in the game is similar, not the most standout character in the series' history, but his bombastic spirit and eccentricity still make me appreciate him. What I don't appreciate, however, is that in the remakes, Barry is no longer one of the default names for him. I don't know why they removed it, because to me that name is synonymous with the character, like, it's Barry guys, come on. Despite more or less fitting the Pokemon status quo, where Diamond and Pearl really shine in their brilliance is all the content and features folded into the mix. Revamping the contests of Ruby and Sapphire into super contests, for example, elevates them to where they feel closer to the opulent grandeur of the contests in the anime. The added dance competition round shook up the formula in an interesting way. The remakes maintain a pretty similar approach to Diamond and Pearl's super contests, but remove the dress-up portion as well as having the move evaluation take place during the dance competition. I think the latter change helps to streamline the whole thing and stop it feeling bloated, and while dressing up my Pokemon was always fun, I can see why the use of 3D models as opposed to sprites makes that far more difficult. The visual evaluation round finds a decent workaround for this though, incorporating the Pokeball seals into determining your score. When you make a nice seal, it's rewarding to see your Pokemon emerge from it, but sadly the placement and aesthetic of your seal don't contribute to your score. Instead, all the stickers you can unlock just boost a certain contest stat, and placing the maximum amount on your design seems to net you more points. There's no skill to this, and for that reason I think it falls flat. The poffin making and feeding process of the original games is pretty similar, only now you use the left stick instead of a stylus to stir, in a move which I vastly prefer. Making poffins is a lot of fun, and feeding the right kinds to your Pokemon and working out the correct berries to use is still really enjoyable. Not to mention that the growing and picking of berries is still a great way to encourage backtracking and making the world your own, albeit to a limited extent. The dance competition has, for better or worse, been simplified. Now you only have one button to press in time with the rhythm game, with the only variation being the timing, as well as sections where you have to hold and release it for a bar or so. You also no longer take turns leading and following different move combos. Now all participants just need to adhere to a pre-choreographed dance number and time their button presses just right in a fairly simple rhythm game. I personally think this makes super contests more accessible and therefore is a positive change. The third round move evaluation has been incorporated into the dance competition. While I think that this is good in that it makes the contests faster paced, I never really quite got the hang of working out when to use my move to reap maximum rewards. A change I'm more on the fence about is completely doing away with the contest category typing for each move. Rather than being beauty, cool, smart, cute, or tough type, now every move just has a universal effect and a number of hearts it can earn you, as well as buffs and debuffs. I'm not opposed to making the barrier for entry lower for contests, but I think this may be a step too far in the direction of oversimplification. As a whole, however, the super contests of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are arguably more ambitious than those of the originals. In combination with a less overwhelming metagame surrounding them, I found myself having a lot more fun in these than in the contests of other Pokemon games. They're still a little underdeveloped in comparison to the main game, but going for a master rank and learning to optimize Pokemon for contest performances offers a pretty consistently enjoyable experience. A significant addition to Generation 4 that's been given a heavy facelift in these remakes is the Grand Underground, formerly known as just the Underground. It retains most of the features of the original, like the ever-enjoyable digging minigame, a customizable secret base, and a built-in economy that lets you find rare items, but now it's been completely redesigned to be the same shape as the region above, as opposed to just a giant square maze. The addition of a bunch of caves known as Pokemon hideaways is the biggest and best change here. Not only is it a great place to catch some stronger and rare Pokemon earlier in the game, but it also features a surprising amount of depth. The decor of your secret base, as well as other factors, can alter the spawn rates of certain Pokemon, including shinies, tying this whole game mode together really coherently. This is the kind of place where devout players will easily be able to spend hours at a time mining, decorating, trading, catching, and battling. All in all, a vast improvement over the original Underground and a really fun time sink. There's also a lot of smaller features that return from the originals. The Poketch is back and features quite a diverse array of handy uses. It's a little more clunky here with just one screen, but being able to bring it up and down with the press of a button gets around this as well as could be expected. And I may have shit on them earlier, but if you don't make ball capsules how the game wants you to, and instead just try to make them look appealing, it's a really fun mode to tinker in. It's a great way to give your Pokemon a signature flourish that helps them to stand out as a unique character. You can also still polish badges when playing in portable mode, which is nifty. One missed opportunity here is the omission of the Global Trade Station. Supposedly they're adding it sometime this year, rebranded as the Global Wonder Station, but with the worrisome addition of Pokemon Home compatibility slated for around the same time, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the former won't demand a subscription to the latter. I just hope they add it soon, because link and online trading really doesn't come close to cutting it in a pandemic, especially for the game's target audience of children, most of whom I'd hope aren't allowed to go on forums and exchange trade information. Fortunately, the post-game is more or less the exact same as it was in Diamond and Pearl. It's relatively hefty when you take into account the unprecedented amount of post-game legendaries, as well as the Battle Tower, which delivers the frantic neck-and-neck competition that the main game storyline probably left veteran players craving. It's far from the biggest post-game out there, but thankfully it has more to it than Sword and Shield. And no, I refuse to count paid DLC as a post-game. One of the more disappointing omissions is the Battle Frontier of Platinum. It doesn't come as a surprise, especially considering that X and Y's Battle Maison was lazily used as a substitution in the last remakes, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. We still have the aforementioned Battle Tower here, but Platinum really fleshed this area out with all the different facilities and their unique gameplay twists, so it's a genuine shame. There's also been a lot of smaller improvements made in the remakes. Some of these, like Pokemon following you around, outfit customization, and being able to access PC boxes outside of Pokemon centers, help to bring Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl in line with more recent entries. Pokemon following you is cute, and I'm glad it's here. I'm pretty indifferent on the inclusion of outfits, but my biggest qualm with this is that the Platinum Winter Alts are here, but only as a limited time mystery gift. Like, everyone deserves these outfits. This is stingy. On-the-go access to PC boxes, meanwhile, is an excellent quality of life feature, which I'm glad seems to have become a mainstay at this point. There's also smaller returning features from Sword and Shield, like little checkpoint flags for your next destination in the plot, which just make the whole game a little more friendly for newcomers. Really can't complain about that. The soundtrack of Diamond and Pearl is definitely one of its strongest attributes, so naturally I was excited to hear how these lush and shimmering tracks would be remastered for their next-gen debut. And I wasn't disappointed. They absolutely nailed these. I think this is an instance where less is definitely more, because all the songs here feel fresh, but also just how they should in order to fit the Sinnoh region. The composers didn't overcomplicate these remasters, instead they respected what worked in the originals and just expanded on that. Being billed as a faithful remake, it's understandable that they brought back TMs being a finite resource. The way they implemented this was altered slightly so that now you get 3 to 5 of certain TMs from NPCs or gym leaders. It maintains the scarcity that these items had, but it also gives you a little more forgiving wiggle room to experiment with teaching several Pokemon the same move before running out. The HMs are also handled far better. You still have the option to teach them, but now they've basically been added to the new Hidden Moves app on the Pokétch. Basically, if you have the right gym badge, you just open that up and boom, a Bidoof or Bibarel appears and uses whatever HM you want. I love how even the Pokemon Company themselves acknowledges Bidoof's HM slave status at this point. Maybe we can get some sort of spin-off where they all unionize. I'd be down. Conversely, I'm not down for the forced XP share here. It's frustrating because I'm not even opposed to it. If it was just locked behind some sort of an easy mode or whatever, that's fine. Just don't make it mandatory, it's really that simple. Far and away the most contentious element of these remakes since their announcement has been their art style. Right off the bat, I'm just gonna say that I actually enjoyed the aesthetic they went with here. There's a special place in my heart for chibi Pokemon characters and I don't think that'll ever change. Unfortunately, I think they picked the wrong place to use it, because I would have much preferred the Sword and Shield art style to be used in Sinnoh, much as Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire used X and Y's art style. Even with that, these games still look nice, but personally I would hesitate to say better. Battles are undoubtedly much more pleasing to look at, with a number of backgrounds which really capture the ancient and storied image of Sinnoh I've had in my mind's eye for all these years. But with the chibi overworld, it feels like it stunts the potential for these remakes. There are moments where you'll come across a body of water or environments where the visuals really pop, but by playing it so safe, the result is an art style that isn't necessarily better than the originals. Personally, I wish they'd created an entirely new region in which to debut this throwback aesthetic, rather than somewhat sullying remakes of these beloved games. I also think that the use of 3D everything, even in the promotional and box art, detracts from the vibrancy that Ken Sugimori always brings with his aesthetic. And that brings me to my next point. Obviously, these titles weren't developed by GameFreak, but rather ILCA. ILCA, I'm gonna go with ILCA. And this isn't me throwing shade at ILCA, because frankly I think that with the unfair hands they were dealt, they managed to make a really strong remake. Freeing up GameFreak to work on Legends Arceus was probably a smart move from the coverage I'm seeing, but it still feels insulting to the legacy of Diamond and Pearl that they would rush these remakes out so haphazardly, almost as if they were a footnote. While most of the modern touches made to the gameplay improve the overall pacing and experience, the fact that the visuals aren't definitively superior to, or at least a departure from, the originals, mean that this remake doesn't entirely justify its existence. The chibi art style does have a degree of charm, but I think that this could have been better realized with a whole new region, as opposed to arguably tarnishing the legacy of the Sinnoh games. But even with that, these definitely aren't bad games. Pokémon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are serviceable remakes of the era I grew up on. They do a lot to preserve what worked in their original incarnations, but for games as personally special as these, I can't help wishing that their scope had gone beyond the baseline of preservation, and instead been a celebration, much like the previous Pokémon remakes have been. There's a lot of fun to be had here, but I honestly couldn't justify playing these for anyone who has access to the original games, or Platinum for that matter. I give Pokémon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl a 4.5 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this review. If you did, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications every time that I upload, leave a like, and comment any and all suggestions for how to improve my content going forward. I'll see you all in the next video.